to be talking a little bit about the harmony between yoga and therapy. And so as I was writing this speech, I did go out and just consult ChatGPT. What would ChatGPT say about this? And it was very funny, like, open with a line of like, have you ever had some overwhelming feelings and thoughts? And just, of course, we all have ChatGPT, which is exactly why you're not a therapist, ChatGPT. It doesn't translate at all. But as I was just digging into like what is going to be the most beneficial thing to say in this speech, who am I talking to, I was like, I might be preaching to the choir. And really helpfully in processing that with a friend was like, no, we all do need these helpful reminders of why yoga is of benefit and why therapy is of benefit and how these two are in harmony with one another. As Tracy had mentioned, I have my 200 hours of yoga teacher training, and I am a therapist as well. Though I would say that where I really experience the harmony of therapy and yoga is just by being a human being traveling in this world and experiencing that myself. So over half of my lifetime in therapy at some point, and also of practicing yoga, and how I've felt these two things to be harmonious. And so, all that being said, I stand here as a practicer of therapy and a practicer of yoga with like a little bit of expertise. One of the things I just wanted to start off with, in terms of yoga and therapy and their particular connection is, as I was looking through this, like the overall sort of like goal and intention of both is very similar. So like with yoga, yoga is union. A union of ourself and something higher, a union of our breath and our body, all to the service of self-discovery and seeking understanding. And I would say the same is true as we walk into therapy, as clients walk into my office wanting understanding about, why am I having these maybe intrusive thoughts? Or, I'm not really understanding why this emotion keeps coming up. I'm having this relationship pattern that continues to occur. So again, to the service of self-discovery and self-understanding and expanding that. The other thing that I want to sort of dig into is that similarities of actual practices within. For example, like within yoga, we talk about grounding. So grounding as we head into yoga poses, finding our feet, finding that balance. And we do these things with our clients in the room. So, for example, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, identifying senses, coming back to our body. So very similar in the grounding. Also in breath. So with yoga, as you know, the importance of breath as we take things through flow or we hold things in stillness, just getting the breath moving through the body. We use that also in our room as clinicians. Taking big deep breaths actually, gives us the opportunity of metabolizing stress hormones. Taking big deep breaths is an opportunity for us to pause. So, and along with that, the pause. As we work through, like, one of the things with yoga is I think it's really wonderful for, and I've noticed, the ability for distress tolerance. So like within yoga, we may be doing poses and holding poses that are quite uncomfortable. Maybe for me that's warrior two. Don't love that one. And it's very hard. And getting to hang out there for a while sort of like improves my discipline at sitting with uncomfortable things. And we do that in therapy. Processing really difficult feelings, getting through difficult feelings, that ability to just sit with ourselves with that. So some of the practices are very similar on the in-betweens. And while I'm not a neurobiologist or a neuroscientist, sort of like I think we all have basic understandings of, and I'll go over it now a little bit, but the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we get to practice yoga, we get the opportunity to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system and getting to rest and digest, and I like to add to that process. So that can all be to the service, because if we are in fight, flight, or freeze with our sympathetic nervous system going and all of those stress hormones, it is difficult to take a wider view. Literally, it's more difficult to get the front part of our brain, our big wise brain, on board to access for processing those things. So getting the opportunity to tap into our parasympathetic nervous system all is to the service of both therapy when we practice that in yoga. The other thing that I wanted to just touch on, I'm going to check my notes because I want to make sure I said everything. And I know I had one more thing on page 3 that I wanted to say. Thank you for your patience. The other thing that so when I was, asking ChatGPT how to do this speech again, so I was like, what do I write down? They were like, come up with an example of a client who used yoga, and I was like, ChatGPT, you cannot come in my counseling room. No, this is client confidential. And I really thought more about okay, how about my experience? So, for example, or not for example, but just taking sort of a wider view, how this has been of benefit for me subjectively and anecdotally. So, right now, I've got a son who's about to graduate from high school. So it is a time of some grieving of the last this and the last that. And I'm not without noticing that and having great, strong feelings about it. My therapist is because I tend to be a planner. Go do this and this and this, and then it's 26 weekends, and then he's off to college, okay? And the importance of, hey, let's slow this down, and just getting the opportunity to really enjoy, or not necessarily even enjoy, but being present in moments. So we just had one of our last volleyball tournaments in Chicago. So the last of many years of going down to Chicago. 6 points left until they were just going to lose the game. We all knew they were going to lose the game. But I got this opportunity to, because of those reminders from therapy and from yoga, to go ahead and pause. Let's really be present with the profundity of what it is that's going on. We're here next to Lake Michigan in this huge thing. There's all these big 18-year-old boys about to fly the coop. There's water bottles falling. There's swears being thrown. And this is. So I just stopped clapping, put down my phone, and just breathed through those last 6 points. And anyways, just bringing those two things together, the pause, the breath, the noticing, and bringing that presence to what is, some of the lasts. And as we carry through our lives, there's a lot of losing from here until the end. And how do we make peace? How do we find self-compassion? How do we take ourselves through that time? So, with a bunch of therapy and with some yoga, a really wonderfully synergistic combination. So, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate your time listening. Does anyone have any questions or things they want to say? Or experiences they want to share, subjective of their own connection of the two?